Hello, and today we're going to be measuring angles, and this involves geometry, and one of my favorite branches of math is geometry. Measuring angles is a relatively simple task. You will need a protractor. Any protractor will do. I picked this one up at, I believe, Staples. You can pick them up at Walmart, Target, pretty much anywhere where you would get a ruler, you can get a protractor. I personally prefer the ones that are clear and that you could see through. A lot of the ones they're making now are made of hard plastic and you can't really see through them. And they have little weird gears on them and stuff. You don't need that. All you need is a basic clear protractor that will work just fine. So, measuring angles. When you're measuring an angle, there's a couple things you need to identify on your angle. First thing right here is your vertex. Your vertex is the point right here where your two lines come in and meet. So once you find your vertex, you take your protractor and you're going to line it up right at the vertex. Now mine right here has a little dash, some of them have a little hole, but you got to line it up right on the vertex. And you got to start measuring at 0. So I'm going to move this right down here, just like that. It's kind of like if you're measuring how tall someone is. You start measuring at 0. You can't start measuring at 10. You can't start measuring at 20. You have to start measuring right at 0. So I'm at 0 right here. We're going to call this my baseline. So we're going to measure up 10, 20, 30, 40, and it's between 40 and 50. So you get these little dashes here, and it's pretty easy because it's right about at 45 degrees. So this would be a 45 degree angle. Now you got to be very careful when you're measuring, because if I was to look at this, I might say it's between 130 and 140, and I might say it's 135. It is not 135. Why? Because this ruler measures this way and it measures this way. So we started here at 0. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 45. If we would have started way over here, we would have worked our way over, but that's not how we did it. Start at 0 and work your way up. It's right there at 45 degrees. So since it's a 45 degree angle, we know that it's a acute angle. And why is it acute? Well, because acute angles are angles that are less than 90 degrees. So it's 45, so it is an acute angle. And I remember that because acute angle has the word cute in it, and the smaller something is, usually the cuter it is. Like puppies, bunnies, lizards, iguanas, whatever. So, moving over to question number 2 now. Let's make a little prediction here before we measure. It is an acute angle because it's less than 90. I'm going to say it's about half of 45 maybe, so maybe around 20, 25 degrees. Again, you got to identify where the vertex is. There's my vertex right there. We can make either one of these lines my baseline, but I'm going to go ahead and make this line my baseline. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it up. Line it up right here. Vertex is all lined up. We've got to start measuring right at 0. It's not at 0. There you go. So make sure the vertex and this line on your protractor meet up. Make sure you're lined up right at 0. I was off on my estimate. 0, 10, 11, 12. It's about a 12 degree angle. And again, it is acute because it's less than 90. Now, acute angle, they're both less than 90. Make sure when you're measuring, if you want to go back and double check, just to make sure that it is indeed 12 degrees, that might be helpful so you don't accidentally make a mistake and regret it later on. So let's go ahead and work on another angle, and we're going to move on here to question number 3. Now question number 3 is kind of weird. It's kind of an upside down angle like that. But again, it's just an angle. If you need to, you can move your page around, you can move and spin it however you want, or you can just move your protractor however you want. But we're going to go ahead and line it up. We're going to line it right over there with the vertex, and we're going to line it up right there at 0 degrees. So, start with 0, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It's almost 70. It's the little hash mark right before 70, so it's about 69 degrees. I'm going to write down 69 degrees. Now, most teachers are not going to be uber picky with you. If you are 1 or 2 degrees off, they're probably going to give it to you, but you want to make sure you're as accurate as possible. So I'm going to go back and just give it one more try here and see if I was correct. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, yeah, it's right about a 69. Now again, remember, we were going from 0 up to 69. So ignore these bottom numbers. We're not using those. We're using these ones right here. And is this an acute or obtuse angle? It is acute because it's less than 90. Alright, moving on, we got one more angle here we're going to measure. And we've got angle number 4. So what we're going to do is identify where the vertex is, and I can measure it this way if I wanted, or I can measure it this way. Just like when you're measuring a human being or anything else, you could start from their head and measure down to their toes, or you can start from their toes and measure up to their head. It doesn't matter. As long as you figure out how tall somebody is, it doesn't matter where you start or where you end, as long as you get the accurate measurement. So we're going to go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and start on the side here. We're lining it up at the vertex, and we're right at 0. So we'll call this our baseline. If you have to, you can even write baseline, just so you know where you started. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. I wiggled it just a little bit so I want to make sure I'm accurate. 130, 131, 132. It's about 133. Again, if you said 132 or 134, you probably wouldn't be marked incorrect, but you want to be as close as possible. Now notice, right here, vertex is lined up right here with the center of the protractor. The baseline is right at 0. It's right smack dab through 0. And so we can easily go over here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, and say that this is a 133 degree angle. Now, is this acute or obtuse? Well, all the ones we've been measuring so far were acute because they're smaller than 90. If it's greater than 90, we call it obtuse. So this is an obtuse angle. If it was 90 degrees exactly, it would be a right angle. And if it is a straight line, it would be a straight angle, which is 180. And reflex angles are angles that are greater than 180 but less than 360. And we'll cover that in a later video. So anyway, there is another page that is attached to this worksheet that is available on my classroom website. And there are a bunch of angles just waiting for you to measure. So take your time, measure them, see how you do, and be careful on that little guy on the top there. He's kind of challenging. But measure your angles, make sure you're accurate, and take your time. Again, this is probably one of the more easy things you'll do in math. So take your time, enjoy it, and this is Mr. Winkle, and hopefully you found this helpful.